right, welcome everybody. I'm Alana Huber-Katz, Director of Education and Coaching. We are kicking it off with seller fundamentals today, listings, pricing, expectations. And what we just opened up with is talking a little bit about, I just heard pricing, right? What the seller, what the owner of a home, right, who has an emotional attachment to it, thinks they should get for their house versus what the market is saying. Here's what I'm going to say to that. That is actually the majority of today's topic is going to be actually that topic, right? That's actually what we're talking about. And oh my God, I love how people are sharing their information in the chat box. This is so much fun. It makes Zoom so engaging. And how do I say this? We as real estate agents, we do not price houses. We do not price houses. Why am I saying that? Who prices the house?
The market.
Thank you. Oh,
The
Alfonso.
market,
Yes, the market prices it.
Yeah.
All we do is study, read, and interpret the market to deliver the information. We pull data to share data and then explain the importance of the data. That's what we do. Okay. Now, I'll also say this. One of the things, if you haven't done listings yet, or you haven't had a lot of listing appointments yet, one of the things you can expect, I'm just going to set some expectations right now. Typically, as an agent, we get very excited when we have, new things. So it's like we have our first listing. It's like, oh my God, I'm excited. And usually when we get excited, we actually talk ourselves out of things. What I mean by that is we have a listing appointment. We go in too fully prepared. I'll explain what that means. We go in too fully prepared. And then literally talk ourselves out of them saying yes to us. Or I'll say, or the other thing we do as agents, and I say we because my first year in real estate, 2015, I completely did this a lot. Okay. So all of you will experience this, and it's just a part of learning. And the more you practice, and we'll talk about that, the more you'll feel confident to not do what I'm about to say. A lot of times, another thing we do is we go in just as almost like a data giver as opposed to a relationship builder. Like, oh, I got all this information. I'm just going to spew knowledge on you. And it's just too much. And the sellers don't care about that. What do sellers care about? Live question. Come off mute. What do sellers care about?
They want to get that
Selling their
the
house for
bottom
the
line.
highest bid.
They
Okay.
care about the bottom line, how much they're getting paid, they can walk away with.
Okay. How much they net, the bottom line. What are they walking away with? Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie. What else?
closing
And then
quickly.
the time on the
Closing.
market.
Time on market. So, okay, how fast can you get me from living in Maryland to move into
Virginia.
California?
Okay.
Okay, how fast can you get me closer to my relatives in California who I want to be close to? Yep. And how much am I going to make to be able to go with me?
Also, like, what do they need to do to the house, right?
What do they need to do to the house? Love that you brought that up, Caroline. Remind me. I need to remember that because in a few conversations, I want to, when I talk about expectations, that's a conversation to have. So yes, what do they need to do to the house?
Probably what your commission's going to be.
So it's interesting. They care about that, but they really don't. They care about what Stephanie said, how much they're going to walk away with. So it's not so much how much are we making, is how much are they walking away with, right? I will say this, the other thing they care about is can they trust us? Are we building trust? And do they like us? Do they like us and trust us? So for those of you who have been on trainings with me before, I literally share the same stories over and over. So I see some names on here and you just get to hear the same stories again. So you're welcome or sorry, I don't know which one it is. So 2018, I was working with an agent, brand new, just got licensed. And in her first 3 months of being an agent, she landed her first listing. It was for sale by owner, following TCP Act. She landed her first listing and it was around a $600,000, $700,000 home. okay, for sale by owner. Then, within her fourth month, actually, I think it was towards the very end of her third month, she landed a $1.2 million listing. Okay, all strangers, all for sale by owners. And the reason they chose her as an agent is she went in prepared. Right, this agent practiced like crazy. She was, man, if she found you and you had 30 minutes to kill, she was like, pretend to be a seller, pretend to be a seller, pretend to be a seller to everybody under the sun. Okay. Um, she also prepared for the appointment, just pricing wise, you know, her spiel, right? Her checklist, I'll call it that, right? What is she going in with? The most important part of it, and the reason they chose her, they interviewed 3 agents. The reason they chose her was for one reason and one reason only. Who wants to guess it?
Likability.
That's it. Exactly. They just liked her better. People choose you because they like you, period. They don't care how much experience you had. They don't care that you didn't sell a house before, you don't have that under your belt. They just care, can you sell my house? Are you coming across confident? You might not have the confidence yet, because until you have a closing, you won't have the confidence. It's a weird thing in real estate. You have to actually have a closing to have confidence.
There's an experienced agent who's told me several times, the nicest and best prepared agent always wins.
That's it right there, Taylor. The nicest and best prepared agent always wins, right? So I say all that to come back to the beginning, and then we'll kind of dive into our regular scheduled program. If you go in, number one, unprepared, and I'll share a story about that in just a second. 2, if you go in there solely focused on how much am I making and how much is their house. So you're just focused on numbers. Oh my goodness, my Zoom screen keeps popping things up. Are you seeing things on your end, or is it just my end? It's just my end?
Just
Cool.
your end.
All right. I don't know what's popping up. I don't know what's happened with Zoom, but hopefully they're not looking to do an update and kick us off, because that happened to me once. It was very interesting. If so, we're going to jump right back on. But if you go in there with, all right, let's talk about numbers, and you start anything with numbers, you are losing their trust right away. There's no relationship, and why should they choose you? Because then you're focused on numbers, not the people, not the person, right? Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, cool. So what we're going to go through in our time today is we're going to talk a little bit about listing preparation. I'm actually going to pull up Bright MLS. Now, I know there's some people on here who don't use Bright MLS. There are multiple. Here's the thing. To price a house, there's a lot of different systems. There's Bright MLS, there's RPR, there's that other one that I'm drawing a blank on right now. There's like 4 or 5 different ways you can actually do CMAs. And if you're in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, there's a whole other way, or you have a whole other system that's not even this. I'm going to walk you through one way, but it's not about the system I'm teaching you. I mean, granted, for those who use Bright MLS, this is going to be helpful. It's not about the system. What I'm going to walk you through is how to read it, how to read a CMA and actually talk about it to a client in a non-threatening, non-scary way. Sound good? Cool. So this isn't a systems training. So if you're like, can you go back and show me that? I'm going to say no, because there'll be other classes on systems. This is let me get to the CMA to walk you through it. And then what we're going to be walking through, depending on time, is just setting the expectations before you even go out to the appointment. Okay, so prep, pricing, expectations. All right, so in regards to prepping for the appointment, and by the way, this is going to be, I have a PowerPoint. I'm not going to use it because I'd rather just have a conversation with all of you than just show you slides. So let's think about this for a minute. Okay. Let's say I'm going to pick somebody on here. Don't worry, you don't have to come off of mute. I'm not calling on you. You don't have to like practice or anything. I just need a name. Let's say that Melanie, hi Melanie, welcome. Let's say Melanie is selling her house And Melanie is selling her house with her sister Kennedy. Okay, so Melanie, Kennedy, you're selling your houses. You're selling your house together. All right. So number one, who all needs to be at the appointment when we're setting the appointment?
Both of them.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So the first thing is the conversation you have leading up to the appointment. Okay. So if you break down a conversation leading up to the appointment, I'm going to give you like I'm just going to give you like my checklist format of this. Okay. So doesn't matter how I met them. Maybe I open house, maybe door knocking, maybe a phone call, however I met them, doesn't matter. I'm now on the phone with Melanie. Okay. I'm on the phone with Melanie. Don't worry, you don't have to come off of mute. We're not role playing. I'm not calling you out. Don't worry. I asked for volunteers on that one. So I'm on the phone with Melanie and I find out she's selling a house. Okay. So the very first question I want to ask is who's all involved? Now be careful with this question. I say who's all involved. I don't say, are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have this? Do you have that? I had a horrible scenario happen, which changed my verbiage immediately on this. I was the end of 2015. It was my first year in real estate. And I was constantly being like, oh my God, like, who are you buying a home with? Like, do you have any kids? Do you have this, a husband? Like, all the questions we tend to ask, right? And the woman on the phone, sad story, the woman on the phone literally just lost a child. Like, just lost them. Needless to say, that phone call ended very quickly. Well, I turned to a therapist. There was a lot of crying happening. Then it ended. So ever since that time, right? The question I simply ask is, awesome, Melanie, that's great. Looking forward to, by the way, use some closing tactics. I want you to hear the verbiage. Okay, there's a psychology behind words we use. Words have meaning, right? So great, Melanie, that's great that you're looking to sell your house. I'm so excited to be able to help you. You guys hear those? What am I doing there?
You're already making it sound like you are the one. You're the chosen one. So in their
Exactly.
mind, that's who they are.
I am literally planting myself in her brain, right? So when Melanie gets off the phone, she's like, all right, Alana's my agent. Awesome, right? So I'm going to say, Melanie, who you all selling with? Oh, hold on. Somebody's not on. Somebody needs to mute. Okay. So who are you selling with? Is it just you? Anybody else? She'll be like, oh my God, it's me, my sister, so-and-so, da-da, whoever she says, my 2 dogs, my 3 cats, my fish. Okay. Now, if they say another person, cool. What's that person's name? Stop and get information. If they say I have kids, how many kids? What are their ages? If they say I'm selling with my partner, cool. Who's your partner? What's their name? Okay. And then if it is another person, when you get to the point in the conversation for the appointment, which we'll get to for the appointment, all right, I have in my calendar tomorrow at 5 or 6:30. Which one are you and Kennedy both available for? Because you both have to be there. And if she's, oh no, I'm available, but Kennedy won't be. Okay, what time does Kennedy get home from work? Oh, not until like 7 o'clock. Okay, let me look at my calendar. Okay, I can actually make 7:15 work tomorrow night. How about that? Because then you need that other person because whoever's not the appointment is the decision maker. Doesn't matter who you're talking to. Whoever's not there, buyer or seller, by the way, is your decision maker. All right. So now the next part of the conversation has nothing to do with their house or the appointment. What am I going to tap into now? What kind of questions am I going to ask? What do we need to know?
Why they're moving.
Yes. Why? So think of the W's. Why is their motivation? Now, I think it was Bailey who brought up the whole pricing thing in the beginning, right? And the biggest struggle sometimes is they say one price and the market's saying another. If you don't know their motivation, you can't get past the price part and they will not hire you. If you don't know their motivation, you're making it 100 times harder for you as the agent. All right. So again, I see some names on here. You get to hear the same stories over again. Let me share a story real quick. 2015, one of my first ever listing appointments, I was like, I think maybe 2 months into real estate. And it was an expired listing. They had their house listed with an agent when expired. It was on the market for 6 months. When expired, they did another agent. Was on the market for 6 months. When expired, they did another agent. So this couple tried to sell their house for 2 years. What do you think is wrong? What was wrong with it?
They probably
Pricing.
couldn't agree on the
Yeah,
price.
there you go, Marie Claire. Pricing. That's it right there. If a house is on the market and expires, it's pricing. So I knew going out there, it was going to be, by the way, this is my second listing appointment. Excuse me. This is my second listing appointment ever. So I knew going out there, I couldn't go in with price because that was already going to be button heads, right? I might as well just walk out the door, be like, thanks so much. I had to go in there with full on motivation, their motivation, right? Because if I needed to poke the pain and figure out the pain, what people move based on pain. People don't move based on pleasure. Nobody wakes up in the morning and be like, I really feel like hiring movers and packing boxes and, really packing up my whole house and moving across, to another state. That sounds like so much fun to me. Now they might move because they want to be closer to a beach or closer to family, and that is pleasurable. But people move based on pain. I have a 2-hour commute. I want a closer commute, right? That's a pain point. I never see my family. I want to see my family. That's a pain point. So the greatest way you can overcome price is to know their pain point. So with this couple, what ended up happening was on the phone. So again, we're still on the phone. I'm still talking to seller about Melanie, okay? On the phone, why are you moving? What has you moving? Where are you moving to? When do you want to be in that location by? Oh my God, you're going to North Carolina? What part of North Carolina? Charlotte. What's in Charlotte? So what you're doing here is you're literally listening to respond. I call it making a friend, right? If you're sitting at a bar, okay, a restaurant. If you're sitting at a restaurant, let's have dinner. We all got to dinner with a friend we haven't seen in 2 years. Are you thinking of a checklist of questions to ask your friend, or are you simply having a conversation?
Yeah.
Right? We're simply just having a conversation with our friend, right? What's happening? What's been going on? They say stuff, we say stuff, we laugh, all that good stuff. We need to do that with who we're talking to. This is our friend we just haven't made yet. Or maybe it is our friend. Now they're a client or soon to be client. So once you get this information, now you can set the appointment. Now you can say, all right, Melanie, I'm so excited to come out tomorrow at 7:15 at 123 Cookie Road to meet with you and Kennedy to most importantly, share with you how I market homes, talk about what's happening with the price in today's market. Notice how I'm keep repeating the word market. Okay. So I'm going to work up the pricing on your home based on the market. I'm going to pull out things to bring with me on how I market homes. And I really look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Is there anything else really important to you that that you want me to bring with me or have available? All right, so now you're getting a commitment. Like, what's most important to them? They're probably going to be like, I just want to make sure I'm walking away with the most amount of money. Cool. We're absolutely going to talk about that. Yep. 100% we'll talk about that. Or I really want to know how you're going to market it to sell it. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that. Now, if they ask you questions on the phone, hey, you know what? What do you think, Patsy, what do you think my home is worth? What do you think I can sell for it? What do you think, what do you do for marketing? What do you do for this? Question for all of you. Do we answer these questions on the phone?
No, because it'll scare them.
No.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
thank you.
no, no.
No, no, no. And here's why. One, thank you. It's going to scare them. Two, if you answer them on the phone, why do they have to meet with you? They'll take it and just go talk to another agent. By the way, that happens so many times. And if you give them information, and not to mention, you haven't seen the house or met with them, so you can't give it. You cannot give it. It's impossible to give the right information over the phone because you have not seen the house and met with them.
Even when you see the house, excuse me, Elena, it's not going to be possible because yesterday I took a buyer out, and then when she saw that house, she asked me, "What do you think that will be the offer?" What I told her is that, okay, let me go back home and trying to see how the market is behaved. We'll see what the last 6 months the house has been selling around the area. Is from there that we'll see where. I will bring you all those information from there. Now you can decide where to start.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. So even, people are going to ask us questions, and most of the time, if we've never experienced it or haven't learned it yet as a newer agent, we won't know the answer. So it's, hey, great question. Let me write that down. And them actually hearing you say that blocks it like, wow, they really care about me. They're writing it down. Let me write that down. I'm going to get back to you today, or unless it's like 7 o'clock at night, and then I'll say tomorrow, right? And then actually get back to them. So either one, we need to get the answer, or two, we need to research to get the answer. So we're on the phone. We found out who's all selling. We found out why, when, what, all the W's, right? Then we set the actual appointment time, but we're not done the call yet. We have one final piece of this call we need. Okay, so this call is 4 things. The one final piece of the call is pulling up the seller questionnaire and literally just going through it. And the seller questionnaire is just criteria. You cannot do a CMA without knowing about the house. You cannot do a CMA without knowing about the house. All the little itty details. Okay. So after you set the appointment, I'm now going to come back and say, awesome, Melanie, I just need to get a little information on your home so I can really price it right based on the market. There you go again, dropping it 3 times, right? The market. This will only take like a minute or 2. She'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Now it actually takes like 5 minutes, but I say a minute or 2. She'll be like, yep, no problem. Now I'm literally running down a questionnaire. Okay, walk me through how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, is there a garage, how many car garage? Talk about the front yard, the backyard, the kitchen, are there upgrades? What do I else do I need to know about the house? Is there a fireplace? No fireplace? Again, the more details they can share with you, the better, because again, that's how you're going to price the house. Then it's great. I'm going to send you an email, a calendar invite, making sure you have all my information, and I will see you again tomorrow, 7:15. Notice how we're repeating everything. Repetition is key, right? So your phone call is 4 things. Who's all selling? All the W's. Why are they selling? When do they want to be there by? Where are they going? What's important to them? If they're moving locally, do they also want to buy a house? Do they have to sell in order to buy a house? By the way, if they say, yes, I want to buy a house and I have to sell in order to buy a house, this stays a listing appointment. Go for the listing first. You can talk about them buying a house while you're at the appointment. Get your foot in the door. Okay. Then after you go through all the W's, you land the appointment. Give the person 2 options. Great, I'm looking at my calendar. I have tomorrow at this time or this time. Which one works best? And before you got the phone, go through that seller questionnaire to walk through. And if someone reminds me before we hop off this call, I should have a seller questionnaire example I can share in the chat box with all of you. But then you're going to walk through and just literally take 3 minutes, run through the seller questionnaire, get all those things answered. Okay. Now we're going to move on to prepping for the appointment. Any questions before we pop into prepping for the appointment?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
So is there a I don't necessarily want to say like a script for this, but is there, I know there is somewhere out there a place where we can kind of like see like the questions that we can ask. I know we just went over it, but like something we can have to practice.
Yep. You know what? I'm going to share that in the chat box. Thank you for saying that. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to download this and put it in the chat box for all of you right now as you are mentioning it.
Thank you.
No, thanks for mentioning it because I would have just moved on and not thought about this. Hold on. I'm just clicking share. So what I'm doing is I'm literally putting in here what's called the seller conversation. Here's the best practice with this. Actually, I'm going to put in two things. So hold on. Here's the best practice with this. So everybody who ever works with me or any of the coaches, we say the word practice a lot. So we use the word practice a lot. So come off mute. When we say practice, what does that mean to you?
Just to get fluent with it, right? So it rolls off your tongue. It comes very naturally.
Love that. Get fluent with it, rolls off your tongue. You internalize it to make it your own, to make it you. So that seller conversation I just put in here, the best way to practice that is, and by the way, it doesn't have to be another agent. It can be anybody. Friend, family, teenage kid, whoever you want it to be. You literally say to a person, like if I'm practicing with Taylor, I'm gonna be like, all right, Taylor, let's do a quick practice, 15 minutes. Cool. I want you to pretend to be a seller. I'm going to call you. Initial conversation.
Okay.
That's great. There's the thing. The 15 minutes isn't me going for 15 minutes. My part's going to probably be like 6 minutes, but then he gets to practice with me and he tells me he wants me to pretend to be a buyer, right? And I'm going to say, great. I'm going to walk through and I'm literally going to, in the beginning, it might literally be reading off the conversation. It might be reading off the piece of paper. The more you say it, the more you get to notate, like kind of note it up and make it you. Always stay true to you. These are just words to internalize. So you're asking, so you are having a conversation that's moving it forward to what we all want, which is appointments, because we can't have business without appointments.
And then it sounds natural, not rote or read.
Exactly. Then it sounds natural, right? It sounds natural. I don't know who was around in we had a coaching session or training, was it last 2 Fridays ago? And it was the 100K blueprint. And we did a lot of practicing. And I mentioned to a few people how when I first started in real estate, I was a renter, never bought a house, knew nothing about real estate whatsoever. I was dual career, wanted to really quit my job because I hated my boss with a passion. Right. So in order to do that, I had to make a certain amount of money. Right. So I made a choice as an agent. That's what we do. We just wake up every morning, we make choices. I made a choice as an agent. Okay, the only way now in the very beginning, my first 30 days, I'll be honest with you, and then I'll jump into the bright MLS in just a second. My very first 30 days, might have been like even 45 days. I had a big ego. I was in sales for 20 years. I know this. I don't need this. I don't need scripts. I don't need, I know what I'm doing, or I can figure this out. Well, after failing and not having any appointments and rethinking why I got into real estate for a minute, I then listened to a really good friend of mine who's an agent out in Oregon, and he's like, just practice every day with different people. So when I found a Facebook group of real estate agents at Keller Williams, and I think it's called Inside Sales Associates or ISA, and I literally was like, hey, I'm an agent and I'm looking to practice 15 minutes a day. Who wants to practice? Now I had people said yes, but never actually showed up. So I kept having to repost that to find other people. But I practiced with someone in Hawaii, Kentucky, Wisconsin. Like I was all over the place practicing. It was so much fun, right? I don't know who these people were. We did end up becoming friends and stuff, but it was literally 15 minutes, really quick. It was usually on one of my drives because I typically drive a lot. That's it. 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And it's to have these things roll off your tongue, to build confidence, to just be able to just, whether it's buyer or seller, doesn't matter, right? One week do all sellers, next week practice buyers. If you're not practicing, then your next seller that wants to sell a $1.2 million home just became your practice. That's not good. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Let's dive into the CMA. Now, again, this is not a systems training, so I'm going to go fast in this. If you do use Bright MLS as your system, you can literally go to YouTube and type in how to do a CMA on Bright MLS, and there's an amazing video. It's how I learned how to do it. And then just watch it, get in, do it. Watch it, get in, do it. The more you do this, the faster you can do it. So I'm going to go to residential sale. So when you're doing pricing of a home, you always want to, now in a perfect world, which is what we don't live in, okay? But in a perfect world, our CMA would have something active. It would have 3 things active and 3 things closed. We don't live in that world. It is very rare you're ever going to find that. I think in my 10 years of real estate, I came across that once. You might do a CMA. I did a CMA. Actually, I helped an agent do a CMA because they were struggling with it not long ago. And there was nothing comparable whatsoever because it was a historic home in a new build complex. And you can't compare historic to new build. So that seller actually had to hire an appraisal, get an appraisal done to be able to actually price it because there was no way to do it. CMAs, for any perfectionist on here, you need to, as you're doing a CMA, you need to almost talk to yourself and say, it's a range, it won't be perfect. It's a range, it won't be perfect. It's a range, it won't be perfect. A CMA is a range, an approximate range. It is literally a guesstimate. We are playing with numbers. So for the perfectionist, you're not going to like that. So talk yourself through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at coming soon's active, active under contract, and closed. Okay, those are the 4 I will always select and look at. For closed, I always start with going back 180 days. If I get a lot of things that pop up, I'll come back to this and change it to 90 days. If I don't get a lot that pops up, like last year, there was very few listings out there. I'll go back and I'll just play with numbers 260, 360. The only thing you really need to notate is the market changes all the time. Literally every 2-3 months, the market is changing. It is always up and down. So a home that sold in the beginning of 2024 is now lower priced. It's gone down in price. So if you're comparing something from last year, you need to automatically lower the price a little bit, right? But that's just the more you do CMAs as practice. God, I can't use that word enough. The more you do practice CMAs, the more you're going to learn the market faster. All right, so these are the only things I put on this page. Now I'm going to go to map and I need to find an address. So I'm going to use just an address around an area I know. I can spell. All right. So you throw in an address, and here I have red means closed, greens mean active. Blue is a brand new color I haven't seen yet because usually it's orange, and orange is literally everything else. Oh, coming soon. There we go. Oh, there's a coming soon in this area. Interesting. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to make a big, huge. By the way, notice I didn't go off to the side. If you don't know the area very well, make it a bigger, put in more, and then you can narrow it down. Like I know off to the side, these are all single family, and where I'm doing the CMA, these are townhouses. And again, a CMA is you are trying to find the most comparable to the home you're going to go on the listing appointment with. Okay, so you can't put single family in with townhouses. You can't put big colonial in with rancher. Now I'll go to results. I typically sort by bedrooms. That's just me. Every agent finds their own preference in sorting. So let's say the property that we are looking at is 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Now I'm going to click on thumbnail because I like to see a little screenshot of it. There's the thing. The property, the 7990, which is the property we're trying to do a CMA for, that's the listing appointment we're all going to. They are not an end unit. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't include this in my CMA. If this is the only thing I have to compare it to, I'll put it in there. If I have other things, I'm not going to put an end unit. Who can tell me why?
Because
They're
then
more
units tend to go
desirable.
for more.
And then it's more people like the end unit because I had more light
So I
than other
heard more
units.
Aren't
desirable.
they
I
more
also said it
pricey?
goes for more money. Here's the thing.
Typically bigger too.
End units are always almost always more money. Here's the thing, we're playing with people's minds right now. All right. That's really what we're doing. When they see a CMA, which by the way, never in the history of never email somebody a CMA. They will cancel the appointment on you and not meet with you. Do not, this is a conversation we have to have in person, or if they're out of state, we can have it on Zoom and I'll share my screen like this. But this is something we have to have after we see the house, build motivation, build a relationship. Again, this is a conversation, not a here you go, data, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to skip the end unit. I'm not going to include that. This one here, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. I'm going to include that one. These, I know this area and this is a condo, so I'm not going to include that. That's a condo. And by the way I know it's a condo is it says number B.
Mm-hmm.
From
Oh,
the
okay.
number. That's how I know it's a combo. Even though this isn't 2 bedroom or two baths, it's still 3 bedrooms and similar square footage. So I am going to include Potter Place. Again, this is an N unit. What I'm also trying to do is see if there's any on the street itself, which this does not have any on that exact street.
When you're doing this, can you put the number of bedrooms and whether you want an interior
Mhm.
unit or any of that in the criteria, or
So the
do you
reason
like
I
to
leave,
scroll through?
yeah, the reason I personally, no, the more you do these, you're going to find your personal
Wait.
preference in doing it. The reason I don't put anything in criteria is it really limits what shows up. So if there's nothing active or coming soon or closed in 3 bedrooms, I have to put a 4 bedroom on here. Right? So I don't put anything in there because I rather use this. So let's say this example. Let's pretend none of these 3 bedrooms are even part of this, and we only have 4 bedrooms. Right? So what I'm going to do there is I will put in this closed one right here on Alchemy Way for 4 bedrooms, knowing that my conversation is going to say this closed at 535. It has 4 bedrooms. Yours is 3 bedrooms. So we're going to start your home lower.
Is that a bit lower?
Yep, we're going to start it lower. Right. So that's the reason I don't do criteria is because it's going to leave out so many things that I probably want to look at. Okay. So I'm going to put one more in here just so I have 3 things. Let me see if there's anything. Hold on here. This is active under contract, which by the way, active under contract, it says 530. We don't know what it actually closes for until it closes. We don't know what the offer was accepted for. Bright MLS does not update that number until it actually closes. So it might be higher, might be lower, we don't know, but that's a good number to start with. This one is closed. What I'm trying to do right now is see if there's anything active. All right. Because there's nothing active, I am actually going to put in this coming soon. Even though it's an N unit, because this is their competition. So if I'm a buyer, I'm sitting at home, I'm looking online to see what houses I want to see. I want to be able to talk to that seller and say, okay, if you're a buyer, which house are you going to look at? Right? The one at 570 or the one at 530? Okay, so now let me click on CMA. And for sake of time, let me just jump through this real quick. I just want a comparable. That's all I want. Finish, view. All right, so here we have the CMA. So this is where, again, next week is all about the listing appointment and where this comes into play in that listing appointment, which is, by the way, after you tour the home, you revisit motivation, all those great things. Don't just dive right into price. This is in your packet that you bring out with you, and you have a copy for yourself and a copy for the client. Okay, so me, I have a little folder. So I just went and bought a big box of folders from like Staples or Amazon or whatever. So in my folder is the listing agreement, completely filled in. It has this in it. I usually use one page out of the listing presentation that's in Designs in Command. And it's just the marketing page. I literally just print it. Oh, actually, I do that page and the seller process. Those are the two pages I just print out and put in the folder. Okay, this isn't a PowerPoint. You're not doing a presentation. You're having a conversation. You're getting to know people to be able to help them. That's where trust is.
What were the two forms, did you say?
Oh, seller process and the marketing page. So if you're in Command, in Designs, there's literally something called listing presentation. And those are pages that I'll print like 20. When I was in the field more and more, I always had a folder of like 20 copies of each because they don't change. You're just putting in a folder to bring with you. You don't have to actually do anything to the actual piece of paper itself.
Can I ask a quick question too
Yeah.
about if there's like a partner, husband, wife, whoever, do you do one for each person or just one for the household?
Great question. I find it agent preference. I'll typically do it for each person. I might not have a folder for everybody, but in that one folder are two packets stapled together of like the marketing, the CMA, so they can both sit there and look at it. Because what I found in the past is you might have, actually, I'll give you an example. So I had a listing appointment once, it was a husband and wife, and the wife was if you know the discus husband, a very high C, very perfectionist. She had a lot of questions, right? She wanted to know the process. The husband was a very dominant personality, right? Very, very discus husband, very high D. So he was like, all right, just get to the point. What's the net? So she wanted to look at things while he wanted to talk about things. So this allowed him to have his stuff, her to have her stuff while we just talked. That was a good question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the conversation. So again, you've already sat down, you've already seen the house, you have a range, right? So here you see the N unit, which is their competition, coming soon at 570. The one that closed, all right, the one that closed, we don't know, but actually, hold on a minute. It's under contract for 530. The one that closed is, when did this close? I'm looking for a date. So this closed, all right, so this closed December, so not too far away. The market changed a little bit, but not too much. It started at 579, but closed at 567. So I'm going to highlight these things. I want to highlight what I want their eyes to look at before I even go out there, right? So now now we're having the conversation. So here's the pricing expectation conversation. right? So let's say I'm going out and April, you're now selling your house. Congratulations. And this is April's home, right? 77990 Blue Stream is your home. And by the way, let me back up 1 second. On the phone call before you even go to the appointment, I mentioned that seller questionnaire you go through, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera. One of the questions that I highly recommend asking, this is a great, great question to ask because it allows you to really prepare for what you're going into. Hey, April. So I'm on the phone with April right now. Hey, April. Hey, okay, I got all this information. I'm going to price your home. This is awesome. One quick question. Did you have, because everybody kind of does, um, any price and did you have a price already in mind for your home? By the way, everybody has something in mind. If she comes back and says no, go ahead, April, tell me no.
No.
Okay. Well, so there's no thoughts on what you might want to get out of the house or have it listed for, or anything you've seen out
Well, I want
there.
as much as I can get. I'm thinking a little more than what the last one sold for. My neighbor down the street.
Do you happen to know what that was?
I think it was like 590.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to work up the marketing and the pricing and see what the market is saying. And when I come out, that's exactly what we're going to walk through.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Now I know this area very well. So even on the phone, if you know the area, my mind immediately went to, "Oh, no, that's not happening." But you're never saying that on the phone. I'm simply, okay, let me work up, see what the market's saying, and I'm looking forward to meeting you tomorrow night. Right? But now I know going into this meeting that I'm going to really spend more time tapping into motivation and pain points before I talk about price, because I know she wants 590, and based on the CMA, she's off her rocker. All right, let me just say it that way. Okay, that's not happening. So now the conversation when we finally sit down is going to be, all right, so let's look at the market. So here's the thing, April. So we're at the appointment now. April, here's the thing about the market. You don't price houses, I don't price houses, the market does. That's who's buyers in the market is what dictates how homes sell. So now we're educating. She'll be like, oh, okay, all right. And now I'm going to say, okay, let's take a look at this. So there is a home right on your same road, Blue Stream, that's coming soon at 570, but I do want to point out it's an N unit. N units are almost always, depending on obviously the interior of it, like if it was a fixer-upper, but this one isn't, it has all the same bells and whistles your house does. N units usually go for anywhere between 10 to 20,000 more. Okay, so I just want to set the tone there. By the way, this is literally what I'm saying to the person. Now, this one here, very similar to yours. Okay, 3 bedrooms, 2 full, 2 half baths, similar square footage of yours, very similar interior. This one is under contract for 530. Now, we don't know what's going to actually close for. It might be a little above or below, but 530 is what they're under contract for. And then this one over here started at 579, but then had to drop the price to actually sell it for 567.5. Okay. But what I want to point out with this one is same bedrooms, one more full bath, which, they kind of equal out with your 2 halves and that full, right? It's a little bit more, worth a little bit more, but not crazy amount. So based on all of this, and based on walking through her home and seeing how great a shape you kept it in, which by the way, if they didn't, don't say that phrase. Okay? Careful what you say. What I'm looking at is what the market is really saying here is to get it on the market for somewhere between, now again, I'm going to give April a range and have her choose. Now, if we give someone a range, what are they always going to choose?
The highest.
Yeah,
The highest
exactly.
one.
But we're giving them, here's the thing, we're messing with their minds, right? We're giving them an option, because people like options. We're giving them an option for them to be able to pick the highest, but the highest is based on what we dictate. Well, not us, but the market, right? But the words we say to them. So what I'm looking at here is we're going to need to have your home somewhere right below the 570 mark. And based on where the market is today, notice how I probably said market like 20,000 times. Okay. I think I'm up to like 52 times. I don't know how many times I'm saying it. Based on the market and everything, what I'm looking at is starting at somewhere between 550 and I'll say 545 and 559.9. Okay, where would you like to start it? Now she's either going to say, well, I want to start at 570. Or she's going to say, all right, let's start at 559.9. Now, if she comes back now, here's the thing. If she comes back and says, yes, let's start it there, great. Write that right in the listing agreement, hand that over, hand them a pen. All right, let me get started on working on your behalf. Close them, write that in there. If she's like, well, I really want to, 570. I'd rather go higher. Okay, April, let's think about this for a minute. Okay, now here's where I'm doing a visualization exercise. April, you're also buying a home in North Carolina. She'll say yes. As you're looking at homes, you're shopping online, right? First, she'll say yes. Basically, we're asking questions to get them to say yes. If you see two houses pretty similar, but one is priced higher, which one are you going to want to go look at? So what's she going to say? The one that's
lower.
Lower, right? So if there's a buyer sitting at home and they're shopping online, which is where they are and what they're doing, and they see your neighbor, who's an N unit, by the way, at 570, but then they see yours at 570 or higher, whose home are they going to go see? Now she's going to respond with, well, I would hope mine, but I guess probably the N unit. That does make sense, right? Exactly. I want to get as many buyers to see your house as possible. And there's actually a pricing strategy where if we go a little lower, it could, no guarantees whatsoever, make sure you say that, result in multiple offers, result in it actually going up in price. But if we start higher, they're not even going to come see your house. So what are your thoughts? Now, she might say, I still want to price it a little higher, but can we do like 565? You know what? I'm comfortable starting at 565, but just know I'm going to watch the showings. I'm going to communicate with you. And over a 10-day period, if there's not a lot of showings or the feedback on the showings is about price, we're going to have to drop it in increments of 5 or 10,000. So we're setting the expectation of what's to come. Right. And then we solidify the price, we write it in the listing agreement, we hand it over, we hand them a pen and say, I'm excited to start working for you. And more importantly, I am ready to get you to North Carolina to be tying the motivation to be closer to your kids because I know you only get to see them twice a year and you're missing out on a lot. Notice how I just kind of poked the pain a little bit.
Kirsten, not Kirsten, I'm sorry, Alana.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wouldn't it be okay to show them that neighbor's house before you really start pricing to say this is something that is similar to yours and this is why it's priced at this amount. So you can at least give them an idea. I see why they priced it in the group, a bigger backyard. So doing something like that, you think that would help?
So if they are really pushing back, like the faster we can get them to agree on a price, say yes, move forward, sign the agreement, the faster they're going to choose us as their agent and we get to work for them. If we're like taking time, show them this house, first of all, it's coming soon because we can't even show it, right? Now, if there's pictures online and she's really pushing back in this meeting at her house in the kitchen table, and she's really pushing back on price, right? And the other house has way more upgrades than she does, I might pull up my computer or might pull up like the actual listing and show her some of the pictures. I think I've only had to do that once in 11 years.
I think it depends too on the relationship you have. If you already have a signed agreement and you're in the process of getting the house ready and your price is indeterminate and it's going to be a couple months down the road, and there are others that come on the market in the neighborhood, I have taken my clients to go look at them to help us determine where our price will end up finally.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is really case by case scenario. Like it truly is case by case scenario. I will tell you, if you spend more time on motivation, more time as them as people, right? That couple I shared who was expired over and over and over again, their house went expired over and over for 2 years straight. The only reason I landed that listing and got them to agree to a $30,000 decrease in price, which is where it had to be. That's why it kept going expired, because the other agents were just taking the listings and being like, okay, yep, let me get on the market. Right. And so the only reason I got them to sit down and agree at that dining room table, the husband and wife, to the price it needed to be at versus where they wanted it to be and had it for the last 2 years with other agents, was because I spent 30 minutes at that table to where it was a 72-year-old woman, 8-year-old man, and both of them were, now I'm not saying you have to do this, but both of them were in tears. Like I pulled out, like they were missing things on, they had to move, they want to move closer to the grandkids, what they were missing from the grandkids. Like it really was sitting there and getting to know them so well, because you can't, if you don't have the relationship and you don't know truly why they're moving and their pain points and what's it going to mean to them, and there is headbutting when it comes to price, right? And by the way, I went on a $1 million listing. There was a listing appointment I went to. The guy wanted to sell it for just shy of $1 million. The home at best was in the 700s. He would not budge whatsoever. And I was not about to spend the money on that whatsoever to just have it sit and and go expired. So I didn't even take it. I walked away. We choose. Okay. And funny enough, he never actually sold it. He still lives there to this day. And by the way, that was back in 2015. So guess he wasn't motivated, right? So you as the agent get to choose. But if you go in there truly prepared, like truly prepared, and you don't focus on price right up front, you will almost always win. All right. I only have another minute, but I do see hands. So Natalia, then Caroline, then I got to pop off.
Yes, I just have a quick one. How many pages does your presentation have?
Well, I don't, you mean like what I bring with me?
Yes,
Because I have
I've
nothing
seen
on my screen. I don't bring my computer in with me. I don't have my iPad with me. I literally bring nothing in but a piece of paper, a notebook. That's all I bring with me. So well, that in a folder. So the folder has the CMA, the listing agreement fully filled out, the seller process that I print from the example listing presentation that's in designs. The word presentation simply means conversation, by the way. It doesn't mean I'm sitting there going, and I'm going to show you this slide, and I'm going to show you this slide. Nobody wants that. That is the fastest way to lose. Now, some agents like to use it to keep on track with things for their own conversation, but just make sure you're making it a conversation. There is nothing worse than sitting there at an appointment, getting spewed on with information and never actually having the person talk. Okay. If you're doing 80% of the talking and they're doing 20, you will not get the listing. Caroline, but then I do have to jump. Caroline's the last person. I do have to jump off. But if you have other questions, feel free to text me. I am free after 2:30 today, so you can also call me. Caroline?
Maybe I should unmute myself. So just a quick question. When it comes to when you're actually at the listing or at the listing appointment, say, for example, you get to the house and it's 100 years old. Do you know what I mean? Like they haven't done any renos on it or what have you. How do you then figure out the number? Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're thinking, okay, they need to get a new roof. Their kitchen is a disaster. I mean, like, do you know what I mean?
So
how do you then do, from experience, I guess you'd know, but if you're coming in new, Is that like a
If it is, yeah, if it
$20,000
is a,
cut
that's a
or?
great question. If it is like, when I do a CMA, I'm looking at pictures. I'm sitting there saying, are there any houses that are also fixer-uppers? Right? If there aren't, and they're all pristine, and this house is a fixer-upper, and I'm not quite sure exactly where I should price it, I'm going to take a lot of notes. I'm going to get them to still fill out the listing agreement. I'm just going to say, hey, we're not going to finalize this. I'm going to send it to you to finalize. Right? Actually, I'm not going to send it. Sorry. I'm going to come back the same time tomorrow. Because what I want to do now that I've seen your home, what I want to do is sit down and really look at if you fix things versus not fix things up, what the range, what your options are. So let me gather some more information. By the gathering more information, I mean go back and call your coach, or if you're on a team, your team, and be like, all right, I need your help, right? I may even say, do you mind if I take some pictures, right? Just to go back and be able to show whoever I'm working with to help me. But there's nothing wrong with saying, but set the next appointment. I'm going to come back tomorrow night, same time, same place, and have that information for you and have
Just
it within
because,
24 hours.
if it's an older couple and they haven't done anything with their house, they're going to think it's fantastic because they're older. And then we're going to know that.
And here's the thing, and they, like that couple I met with, they had no desire to put anything in their home. It was a disaster house. The floors were creaky. There was like a huge dip. Like it was just crazy. I knew it has to be in the lowest end of that range. I knew I was like, well, let me just go super low. Okay, I do have to pop off. I have people waiting in the waiting room right now for the next thing. Thank you all so much. Have an amazing day, and everybody go get a listing.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.